question. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
When the U.S. increases its tariffs on our cars and softwood lumber, the PM made a big promise. He said that Canada has already invested $500 billion over the past 5 years and will probably invest over $1 trillion if we reach an agreement together. The Prime Minister said that it will be private money. Will he force U.S. investors or just encourage them to invest here in Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr.
Speaker, today is a momentous day, and I'm sure all parliamentarians would join me in recognizing the historic progress that has been made in the Middle East under President Trump's 20-point peace plan. And I would like, on behalf of members, I would like to commend the leaders of Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, the architects of the plan, Mr. Kushner and Witkoff, and underscore, as I did to the President and to Mr. Kushner, Canada's full support in ensuring that all parties implement all phases of this plan.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We all congratulate President Trump for his peace deal in the Middle East, of course, but I asked a question in French with respect to Canadian jobs, Mr. Speaker, and the Prime Minister needs to offer some respect to Quebec and Francophones that are losing their jobs, and that he needs to answer the question. The question is, he has promised, in terms of the U.S. deal, it will involve trillions of investment, which threatens the jobs of Canadians. Did he obtain this money from the U.S. in exchange? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the current situation is that Canada has the best trade deal with the U.S. worldwide, first. Second, we can improve this agreement, and that is why Minister LeBlanc is currently there in Washington trying to negotiate with the U.S. And against this backdrop, there will be more investment here in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the Prime Minister came home empty-handed with more tariffs on softwood and automobiles, but he made a massive promise of $1 trillion of investment that would leave Canada to go to the United States. He said that this would be part of the agreement that he expects to get. So right in the agreement, he's going to commit to moving $1 trillion out of Canada. Yesterday, he confirmed it would be private money. So how is he planning to do that? Is he going to pass a law forcing our pension funds to move their money south? Or is he just going to continue with high tax and anti-development policies that cause investment to flee?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was there. And I was there in the conversation with the President. I was there in the conversations in the Oval Office. I was there in the conversations afterwards. And the situation is this. We have the best deal in the world. We're in the process of making it better for the workers in the steel sector, for the workers in the aluminum sector, for our energy workers, for our auto workers, for our workers in forest products, for our workers across this great land, because we believe in Canada. We will not rest till we have the best deal.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, what we have is the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 with the second highest unemployment, and he was there. So he has a duty to tell the Canadians, who are the owners of this $1 trillion that he wants to push out of our country, what is in this deal? Because he said it would actually be in the agreement, that he's going to move $1 trillion of private money south. So there's two ways to do that. Is he going to pass a law forcing investors to sell Canadian investments, putting people out of work here, and invest in the South? Or is he going to continue to kill jobs with high taxes and anti-development policies that send money away?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know the honourable member was not here when this government cut income taxes, cut capital gains taxes, cut the carbon tax. I know the honourable member was not here when this government passed legislation for one Canadian economy and to build major projects across this great land. But the member opposite will be here when this government presents a generational investment budget November 4th, and we hope to have this.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We must be on to something here because he has $500 billion. Canada has invested $500 billion in the U.S. over the last 5 years alone. Probably $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement we expect to get. So this is what he said. This is after he has failed to get tariffs lifted on our auto workers, our lumber workers, after thousands have lost their jobs, after he created the second highest unemployment and the worst growth in the entire G7. So here's a very direct question. He's committing $1 trillion Canadian investment dollars to head south of the U.S. Has he secured an agreement that President Trump will send the same?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has no tariffs on auto parts. Canada has the lowest tariffs on finished goods in the world. We are working towards an agreement that will increase investment in Canada, that will increase investment in the United States, but we will only accept the best agreement for Canada, and the private sector, remember that, will make those decisions.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, he says he's going to put it right in the agreement, so presumably he's going to enforce it somehow. Another Liberal contradiction, another failure and broken promise by this Prime Minister. Let's go to energy. Just days ago, the Prime Minister voted in favour of an energy cap that would make it impossible to fill another pipeline. Then he woke up and discovered that President Trump has, for the last 8 years, supported the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, we know that as long as he blocks production in Alberta, we won't be able to fill that pipeline with oil. So what is he going to fill it with? Maple syrup?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I voted, as did others, a majority in the House, voted against a motion to get rid of something that does not actually exist.
That's right.
Okay, the first thing, does not actually exist. Secondly, we are working with the private sector. We are working with the province of Alberta. We are working with the Americans to unlock great Canadian energy to build this economy strong.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we are moving forward, and a month ago, I think my colleague, the Leader of the Opposition, should be ready to talk about the independence of Quebec. But in the meantime, heavy trucks are the object of a 25% tariff as of November 1st. Lumber has different types of tariffs, up to 45%. Aluminum and steel, up to 50%. Automotive, 27.5% in tariffs. I would like to know from the Prime Minister, when will he explain to all companies in these sectors and their workers and their subcontractors? Inaudible. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, it was hard to hear the last part of that question. So the facts of the current situation. We have the best deal in the world with the U.S., first. Second, our tariffs, the tariffs on steel, aluminum, we are negotiating right now to bring them down. Third, the tariffs on trucks and automotive are the lowest in the world. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. I will hold the Prime Minister to his word. During the election campaign, right after it, he said there'd be no more tariffs. Well, these tariffs shouldn't even exist as reprisals between friendly countries. But he said there'd be no more. And then the week after, he said there'd be a free trade agreement. He himself changed ideas, and He says he wants to negotiate a pipeline to the U.S. How does this diversify our economy, Mr. Speaker? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the diversification of the Canadian economy with our reliable partners and partners such as Asia, Indonesia, we have just signed a comprehensive deal. We are also in negotiations with the European Union, with the ASEAN, all the Asian countries. And there will be more deals with countries in South America. The Honourable Member for Balaye-Chambly. It's much later than the timeline the Prime Minister promised when he was campaigning, but we can understand that. Well, now he says there are currently negotiations underway to reduce tariffs. For 6 months now, tariffs have been going up. The U.S. keeps adding tariffs. So this isn't a great success right now. In the meantime, can he at least use the programs that he has announced for aluminum and softwood? Because not even 1 cent has been sent. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite will have the opportunity to support programs for the steel, aluminum sectors and all the sectors in Quebec and Canada with the current budget that will be tabled on November 4th.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
Since the Prime Minister took office, nearly $54 billion investment dollars has fled our country. Yet the Prime Minister said that Canada will send the U.S., quote, $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get, end quote, that he expects to get. Well, it's Thanksgiving, and I'll tell you what Canadians expect. They expect a Prime Minister who will stand up for investment in this country, who will stand up for Canadian jobs. So when will this Prime Minister do that and finally stand up to the Americans, stand up to Donald Trump, stand up for Canadian workers?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inform my honourable colleague and the members of this House that we have provided billions of dollars of support for this economy, including $5 billion in a strategic response fund, Mr. Speaker. And we're doing this while supporting our workers, supporting sectors, including auto, and maintaining Canada's AAA credit rating and the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7. Mr. Speaker, we will get the best deal for Canada, and we will take the time that we need to in order to get this done. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inform the Minister that Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. I'd like to inform the Minister that with this Prime Minister, it's been all about concessions. Back down on their DST, back down on softwood lumber, back down on auto, they've backed down on investments, and they've backed down when our workers needed them to stand up to Donald Trump, like the Prime Minister said that he would. Auto plant closures, steel plant closures, layoffs across this country. Canadians want to know why he's sending $1 trillion of investment to the Americans. When's he finally going to stand up for Canadian workers?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we actually believe in the potential of this country. And in fact, the statistics are bearing this out. The lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7. Inflation and wages are working in Canada's favor. We will continue to grow this economy by investing in the workers, by investing in sectors, and we will do this while making sure that foreign direct investment flows to Canada, where we sit at the very top of countries as ranked in the G20. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
While in Washington, the Prime Minister bragged that his Liberal government has already driven $500 billion of investment south of the border over the last 5 years. And then he proudly vowed that he would send another $1 trillion south of the border if we get the agreement that we expect to get. In other words, this is exactly what this Prime Minister wants to do. He wants to drive investment from Canada to the United States. So much for elbows up, okay? So here's the choice. Does the Prime Minister plan to order Canadian pension funds to invest in the United States? Or does he plan to continue his anti-development projects or initiatives?
You ran out of time. The Honourable Government House Leader.
We have this disturbing trend about the Leader of the Opposition making something up, and then members down and up the line, they even add on new and very intriguing figures and facts, Mr. Speaker. We don't quite really understand, can't follow the logic. Here's what I can say the government's doing. It is in negotiations with the United States as we speak. The Minister for Canada-US Trade is there. We're going to negotiate a great deal for Canada, and we're going to continue to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Here's what we know and can't be refuted. We know that Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. We know that the unemployment rate is the second highest. We know that Canadians are already struggling to be able to put food on their tables and take care of their families. And now we know that this Prime Minister went to the United States of America and promised that he would drive another $1 trillion of investment south of the border, therefore putting Canadian families at a disadvantage because they won't have jobs. What will this Prime Minister do to put his elbows up and stand up for them?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, taking the Opposition Research Bureau stuff and just repeating it does not make it true. What we do know, and Statistics Canada would confirm this, is that Canada's economy is in fact growing. And what does growth mean? It means we're adding value to our economy, adding opportunities for workers. Of course we're concerned about job losses. Of course we will continue to defend Canadian workers right across this land. But one thing's for sure, we'll take our statistics from this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Swift Current Grasslands Kindersley.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's an old proverb that says that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Canadian workers are getting sick and tired of this Prime Minister's good intentions. The best predictor of the future is the past. So let's take a look at the Prime Minister's record. His last act as the chair of Brookfield was to move their company headquarters out of Canada into the United States, into the welcoming arms of President Trump. So I guess it's pretty clear. The Prime Minister will continue to sell out Canadian workers to the U.S. Isn't that right?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat what we have announced in this House. 85% of Canadian exports go to the U.S. without any taxes or tariffs, Mr. Speaker. What's more? Moreover, please listen. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian economy is open. Capital moves on both sides of the border, and we're going to do everything we can to continue to attract capital to Canada to invest and grow faster. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised U.S. President $1 trillion investment in the next 5 years if they get the agreement we deserve. And how come the Prime Minister recommended the move of his company, Brookfield, to this headquarters to the U.S. And now they're investing in the U.S. How come the Prime Minister is recommending investment in the U.S. instead of in Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. I have to confess, Mr. Speaker, that I'm surprised to see that our members opposite do not understand this notion of capital flows. The entire Canadian economy is an open one. Capitals come in, they go out. It is a great transition to invest abroad and also to accept foreign investment. That's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to grow the Canadian economy. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. The contract, Mr. Speaker, we understand that he recommended moving the headquarters of Brookfield to the U.S., and now The largest company has announced that it would move its headquarters to the U.S., a trucking company of 25,000 employees. Right now, it's not surprising to see the Canadian economy is contracting the fastest in the G7. We should be employing Canadians and not Americans. Does not the PM not agree? Mr. Speaker, that's exactly the question on April 28th. Canadians answered in great numbers, yes. It's just this Prime Minister who's going to be in charge of governing Canada and to continue to spur economic growth that is both quick and diversified. The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the minister accused us of misrepresenting his words. He's always the one who talks about the Russian invasion of Ukraine when he justifies his opposition to the notwithstanding clause. He's the one who sent a brief to the Supreme Court in which he used slavery and summary executions as arguments. He is always the one who claims that the notwithstanding clause could be used to ban places of worship, abolish trade unions, and shut down newspapers. Frankly, who is distorting reality, the minister or those who defend the notwithstanding clause? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. It's clear. It is essential for the federal government to defend our charter, to defend our human rights and protect our Constitution. If this case is before, the Supreme Court, it is responsible for us to defend the Charter and our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, there are no circumstances when the federal government won't intervene, and it's important for today and tomorrow to protect the rights of Canadians. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, in an open letter from the 5 premiers, the signatories point out that the notwithstanding clause made it possible to repatriate the Constitution. But the Liberals want to rewrite history and fully subject to Quebec and the provinces to the federal charter. In short, the Liberals want to erase the constitutional compromise of 1982. Government is orchestrating a power grab to weaken the National Assembly and the provinces. Will the minister not see reason, respect the notwithstanding clause, and stop attacking the parliamentary sovereignty of Quebec and the provinces? Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I disagree entirely with what my Bloc colleague has just said. Our intervention with the Supreme Court is to defend the rights of Canadians and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There's nothing in our intervention before the Supreme Court that would prevent provinces to continue to use the notwithstanding clause if they want to. But we want the rights of Canadians, if they're violated by the use of this clause, for the courts to be able to pronounce a decision in that respect.
Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Canada has the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. BC forestry workers are already hard hit, but it's going to get worse. The Prime Minister promised to negotiate a win with the USA, but softwood lumber tariffs have doubled since he took office. Instead of keeping his promise to Canadians, he is promising to invest $1 trillion into the U.S. economy. How many more BC lumber workers will lose their jobs because of this Prime Minister's failures?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear that the tariffs are unjustified, and we are working at every level to address them. We've created $50 million of supports for workers. We've created $700 million of liquidity support for companies and $500 million for new markets and new innovations in the sector. We're going to continue to work to support the forestry sector, and we hope that they'll get on board.
That's great.
The Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
This Liberal government can't make up their mind. On one hand, they say it's unjust, then they say it's the greatest deal in the world. Exactly. Make up your mind. There's mills closing all across BC. Skeena Sawmills in Terrace, Canfor in Houston. West Fraser shut down and left hundreds of my constituents out of work in an already weak economy. Our communities are hurting. Since this Prime Minister took office, softwood lumber tariffs have doubled, putting even more Canadian jobs and communities at risk. Right. When will this Prime Minister do what he promised and stand up for our forestry mills and for the communities and families who depend on these jobs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
always stand with the workers in the affected communities, which is why we continue to invest and will do so in the future as well. There are significant difficulties with the long-standing softwood lumber dispute, but those are difficulties we are addressing head-on. We are working at every level to challenge them, and we are doing that with the support of the whole Canadian economy. We are finding that we can leverage innovative new ways to make sure that we can get the best deal possible for our lumber sector.
The honourable member for Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegowuk.
People in Northern Ontario and Canada urgently need this government to address the impact of U.S. lumber tariffs. The Liberal government is failing sawmill workers, and the situation is only getting worse. The Prime Minister promised to negotiate a deal with the Americans, yet forestry and sawmill workers in Calstock, in Hearst, Cochrane, Chapleau, Kirkland, and all across Canada are facing the real prospect of losing their job. Yes. What is in place does not work. Why is the Prime Minister selling out our sawmill workers in Northern Ontario and all?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, I'm no stranger to communities that struggle when industries are struck. I'm from Northern Ontario as well. But the difference between our government and the members opposite is that we step up for workers when they're struggling, whether it's through EI reforms, whether it's through investment in companies so they can actually transition, whether it's through work sharing to get a company through a tough time so that they can see a brighter future. That's the work we do on this side, Mr. Speaker, with companies every single day. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury East, Manitoulin Nickelbelt.
Mr. Speaker, Canada now has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment rate. And it is looking worse for lumber and mill workers in Northern Ontario. The Prime Minister promised to, and I quote, negotiate a win, but softwood lumber workers are being sold out with no deal. Why is the Prime Minister breaking his promise and selling out Canadian mill workers?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, this is a great time for me to highlight the incredible work of FEDNOR, the Federal Economic Development Agency of Northern Ontario, who works with organizations across Northern Ontario and has for years to make sure that as industries change, as times change, as products change, that companies have what they need to be able to grow and adapt. We've invested millions of dollars into the softwood lumber industry, into the lumber industry in general, Mr. Speaker. We'll be there for workers, we'll be there for companies, and Canadians know that they can trust us, unlike those folks.
Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is breaking records, the fastest shrinking economy in the G7, second highest unemployment. If failure was an Olympic sport, this government would own the podium. The Prime Minister came to West Kelowna, held a press conference, and promised to negotiate a win on softwood lumber. He even said Canada would write our own story. Well, his story so far, tariffs doubled, mills closed. People, hundreds of people are out of work and their families have been sold out by this government in places like Grand Forks. Mr. Speaker, if this is the story that the Prime Minister wanted to write, was the title he had in mind, How to Fail Big?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Canada does write its own story, and that's a story that includes buying Canadian and buying Canadian lumber to build Canadian homes. It's a story that includes $50 million in income supports for workers. It's a story that includes $700 million in liquidity support, $500 million for innovation in the forestry sector. That's a pretty good story, Mr. Speaker, and I hope they'll help us write it.
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has long been renowned for its strong advocacy for multilateralism on the international stage. During Canada's historic presidency of the G7 at this turbulent time, our government has been committed to continuing this tradition. Could the Minister of Foreign Affairs update the House on how Canada's diplomatic efforts are driving prosperity, creating good jobs, and strengthening our position in the global economy?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, thank the honourable colleague for her question. I want to say every country with whom I'm speaking wants more of Canada. In fact, in the G20, Canada is ranked amongst the top 2 destinations for foreign direct investment. We are the only country in the world that has a free trade agreement with every other G7 country. We are forging new relationships in the Indo-Pacific, in Europe, and in Africa. Mr. Speaker, we will not stop until we get the best deal for Canada, and all along the way we'll stand up for our workers.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, in the G7, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment. And it's only getting worse for auto workers, like the ones in my hometown, Oshawa. The Prime Minister promised to protect Canadian auto workers, yet one day after his trip to Washington, the Trump administration confirmed no relief. Auto tariffs and a promised $1 trillion to the U.S. Why is the Prime Minister selling out auto workers and families in Oshawa?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I thank the member for the question, and I'm sure the members opposite and all members of this House are well aware that we are in a major moment of transformation. The economy around the world is changing, and that's why we are going to continue to work to get the best deal for Canadians, including Canadian auto workers, through U.S. But we're not stopping there, Speaker. We're also working around the world to create new markets for Canadian auto, for Canadian workers, to make sure that we're signing up new deals with countries in ASEAN, in countries in Mercosur, because that is how we're going to make sure that Canadian remains strong and Canadian workers have good paying jobs.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear the only auto workers that these Liberals stand with are U.S. auto workers.
Yeah.
This is personal. These are good, livable jobs that helped families buy homes, raise kids, and retire with dignity. They've done everything right, and now they're being told their jobs don't matter. These losses are the direct result of the Prime Minister's failure to stand up for Canada's auto workers, even though he promised. How can families in Oshawa and across Canada ever trust this Prime Minister again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, thank you. This government will never let Canadian auto workers down. We will not let any workers down. We will work day and night to make sure that Canadian auto industry remains one of the best success stories. And that's why, as we speak, Minister of Canada-US Relations is down in Washington working hard to negotiate a deal that is right for Canadian workers, and that's why the Minister of International Trade is in Africa to make sure that we have opportunities in other parts of the world. We will continue to that work so that Canadian workers have good paying jobs right here in Canada.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy of the G7 and the second highest unemployment levels. If you listen to the U.S. Commerce Secretary, it's only going to get worse for auto workers, including those at the local GM plant in St. Catharines. In May, GM announced its largest investment ever in an engine plant just across the border from us in Tonawanda, New York. Meanwhile, it was crickets in St. Catharines.
That's right.
Why is this Liberal Prime Minister so hell-bent on selling out our hard-working Canadian auto workers?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we're making unprecedented investments in our auto sector. The $5 billion Strategic Response Fund, for example, and all the while we are making sure that workers are supported. Companies like Nexstar Battery have committed to hire 2,500 workers and have just hired their 1,000th worker, Mr. Speaker. As an MP with Ford Motor Company in my backyard, let me tell you, we are here for the workers. workers. We are here for the auto sector, and we will get the best deal for our country.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Speaker, General Motors has had a presence in St. Catharines since 1929, nearly 100 years. And if this Liberal government doesn't act, it might not reach the century mark. As billions of dollars flee Canada for the U.S., Canadian auto workers are watching in dismay as their Prime Minister offers up their jobs to the Trump administration. And for what? A free lunch. When will this Liberal Prime Minister stop selling out our Canadian auto workers, or as he already concluded, their jobs are motoring to the United States?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, while we are on the topic of Canadian workers, first of all, let me thank Canadian workers, and in particular unionized workers, for contributing to the growth of our economy every single day. Our government ensured that the workers who are unionized are going to have 20 extra weeks of EI. That's expected to help thousands of workers. Mr. Speaker, on top of that, we put $450 million for retraining and upskilling to help more than 50,000 workers. Mr. Speaker, the opposition doesn't like
The honourable member for Essex.
Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the highest unemployment rate. 150 workers at the Stellantis plant in Essex-Windsor have lost paychecks, and now we learn that investments of $10 billion are going to a U.S. battery plant. Wow. One day after the Prime Minister's trip to Washington, the Trump administration said, no auto deal is coming. Why is the Prime Minister selling out Canadian auto workers in Essex, all the while fueling the tank of the U.S. economy?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Speaker, you know why Canadians don't trust Conservatives? Because they lie to them over and over and over. That's why, Mr. Speaker, because they can themselves go look up Canada's economy and say that, in fact, we
Would the honourable member like to maybe rewind just a little bit before that problematic word?
Sure. Mr. Speaker, the Canadians don't trust the Conservative Party. It's because they actually don't trust the words coming out of their mouth. Over and over and over, they hear misinformation. In fact, Stats Canada shows that our economy grew in Q1 of 2025. And of course, there are changes to our economy, and of course, we have sectors that are struggling. But you know what Canadians know, Mr. Speaker? They know we have their back. While they laugh at supports for workers who have lost their job, extra 20 weeks, my son and other people who are at...
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment, contrary to what these guys believe. It's only getting worse for weak people in Windsor. The Prime Minister is breaking his promise that it would protect Canadian jobs. A day after his trip to the U.S., we just got told there's no deal coming. Jobs in Canada at risk, and the Prime Minister is pledging $1 trillion to grow the U.S. economy, which is a slap in the face to our workers. He moved his own company, Brookfield, to the U.S., and now he's doing the same for Canadian jobs. Why is this Canadian Prime Minister helping the U.S. grow their economy?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Newtecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Auto workers at Honda Canada and Alliston are outraged. This Prime Minister sold them out again. He folded like a cheap suit in front of Donald Trump. Canada already has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment rate. Now the Liberals have failed to secure a deal with the Americans. They're stripping the auto industry for parts and shipping those jobs straight to the U.S. Enough broken promises. Why are Canadian auto workers paying the price for this Prime Minister's failures?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has produced automobiles It's part of an integrated North American industry for well over a century, and it will continue to produce automobiles for a century and more into the future. And that member knows well that we are standing up every day for union jobs in automaker plants right across this country. And in Southern Ontario, we're standing up for the auto parts manufacturers. We're standing up for the entire supply chain. We have the support of the automakers in that position, and we will always, always stand with the auto industry in this country.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
After a decade of Liberal immigration failure, we need to restore order and fairness to the system. And today there are over 3 million temporary residents in Canada, an unprecedented 7.2% of Canada's population. Wow. There's no plan to get them to leave, and this is straining housing, healthcare, and jobs. Now some temporary residents are exploiting Canada's outdated automatic citizenship rules to try and overstay their visas. Will the minister align with most other countries in the world and require at least one parent to be a citizen or permanent resident to qualify for automatic citizenship?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's legislation is clear. Since the end of World War II, if you were born in Canada, you are a Canadian citizen. This government will continue to support a fair and constitutional citizenship framework.
The problem is, for the first time in Canadian history, we have over 3 million temporary residents in the country, and the Liberals are still issuing record level of more temporary resident permits. So now you combine that with the Liberals' broken humanitarian claims system, a protracted appeal system, and their reluctance to deport. What's happening is that most temporary residents effectively stay here indefinitely. Fairness must be restored. Will the minister update our outdated laws and require at least one parent to be a citizen or permanent resident to qualify for automatic citizenship?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member has her facts wrong. This country and this government will not create a two-tier system, and we will never penalize the children for the children in this country that are born here. Thank you.
Honorable député de Longueuil.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the courts have been clear. The first-generation limit to the transmission of citizenship by descent is unconstitutional. We must respond to this and create a fair constitutional citizenship framework. Can the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship tell us how Bill C-3 offers a recourse to those who have been deprived of their citizenship, and how it offers fair access to citizenship for future generations? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. With Bill C-3, we are offering a solution for these lost Canadians. And we will also ensure that children born or adopted abroad can also access citizenship if their Canadian parent, who also was born or adopted abroad, has a substantial link with Canada. That is how we will balance fairness with the immense value of Canadian citizenship. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, Canada's economy is the one that is weakening the quickest in the G7. The Prime Minister promised that he would come out of the meeting with President Trump with a victory. But after concession, softwood lumber workers have lost a great deal. The Prime Minister came back empty-handed, and softwood lumber is not even on his priority list. He promised there would be an agreement to remove all tariffs. But why is he no longer respecting his promises now that he's been elected? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, softwood lumber is indeed an industry that's experiencing a difficult period, and it's not the first time. This industry has often been the target of our American neighbors.
And that's why we need to negotiate a comprehensive agreement that will help all Canadians. And as the Prime Minister said, we will not sign just any old agreement. We will sign an agreement that helps all Canadian sectors, including softwood lumber. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, softwood lumber tariffs have doubled since this Prime Minister came to power. The Canada Forestry Services Association stated that with more than 200,000 direct jobs at stake, our sector is acting the Prime Minister to show the same sense of urgency about softwood lumber as he does about steel and aluminum. Why is the Prime Minister letting down these 200,000 workers and their families? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we are very familiar with the softwood lumber sector. I personally am very familiar with this sector, and we know that this type of situation with our American neighbors has happened over and over. We will be able to negotiate an agreement with them, and that is why we're not going to sign any old agreement. Instead, we will ensure that the agreement we sign will benefit all Canadians and all sectors.
For Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada already has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and the second highest unemployment. It's only going to get worse in Cambridge auto workers who work at Toyota with jobs and investments fleeing south. Just after the Prime Minister's trip to Washington, the Trump administration says there will be no deal on autos, putting thousands of workers and their families at risk. To add insult to injury, the Prime Minister promised to send $1 trillion to the U.S., spending money on American jobs while Canadians get pink slips. Why is the Prime Minister so quick to invest in America's future while selling out the livelihood of Canadian auto workers?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course Canada's economy is in fact growing, and that is a statistical and objective fact. I very much empathize, not particularly with this honourable member who is reading the points that they sent in from the back room, but I do empathize with the people of Cambridge and the anxiety that is felt throughout the auto sector. It is not obvious that the President of the United States has put on the table tariffs that completely alter that sector and don't necessarily always respect the very good and very hard work that they do. We will defend those people.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday our government introduced Bill C-12 to secure and protect the integrity of Canada's immigration system, reinforce our border, and curb the transnational flow of fentanyl. Can the Minister of Public Safety inform the House why we need to move swiftly to pass Bill C-12?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Bay of Quinte for this very important question and his very hard work. The Strengthening Canada's Immigration System and Borders Act will strengthen our border and keep Canadians safe. It will ensure guns and fentanyl are off our streets, Mr. Speaker, and it will assist law enforcement with the required tools to do their job properly. I want to take this moment, Mr. Speaker, if you will allow me, to thank the frontline RCMP, CBSA, CSC, as well as CSIS staff who work on the front lines each and every day, and I want to wish them a happy Thanksgiving.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, this morning we learned that French only makes up 17% of the Prime Minister's speeches. When I had the honour of being part of the previous Conservative government, all speeches began in French, and today the leader of the official opposition gives French pride of place in his speeches. Mr. Speaker, we're not in England. This is Canada. Does the Prime Minister realize that French is also the language of business, both in Canada and throughout the world? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, I have some news from my colleague across the way. We are the government that has done the most to help official languages in Canada. We modernized the Official Languages Act, and we offered $4 billion in investment, that's historic, for official languages throughout the country. For the first time in the history of the country, we reached our targets of Francophone immigration outside Quebec. We're going to ensure that those targets then reach 12%. That's historic. That's what I would like to tell my colleague.
The Honourable Member The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I often hear parties in the House say they support workers. In fact, I've heard a lot about workers today. Yet when I tabled my bill to protect the right to strike and collective bargaining, crickets from the Liberals and Conservatives. So words are one thing, action is another. If the Liberal government really respects workers, will they protect their rights by supporting my bill to remove Section 107 from Canada's Labour Code? Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, we have significantly strengthened the rights of organized labor in this country, starting in 2015 when the Liberal government repealed union-busting legislation that was presented and passed by those Conservatives. Another untrustworthy move, Mr. Speaker, strengthening the Canadian Labour Code, making scab labor illegal, and investing in union-based training. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work with labor organizations and businesses to make sure that the relationship remains balanced and productive.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, we all know that Donald Trump is erratic and very difficult to deal with. However, the Prime Minister's growing list of concessions and appeasement is clearly not working. The latest sees him offering up the Keystone Pipeline to the Americans and getting nothing in return. This is an uneconomic, environmentally damaging project that directly contradicts his pledge to reduce integration with the U.S. economy. What happened to the Prime Minister who promised Canadians a strong approach to Trump's aggression?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, businesses from all over the world are choosing Canada as a foreign direct investment opportunity. We rank amongst the top 2 countries in the G20 for foreign direct investment. And in fact, contrary to the words on the other side of the aisle, we have inflation coming down. We have the Bank of Canada cutting the benchmark interest rate to 2.5%, Mr. Speaker. We are a free trade agreement with every other G7 country, Mr. Speaker. These are more than just agreements. They are bridges to economic resilience, and we'll keep going hard. Thank you.
And that ends the question period for this Thursday.